What's going on today, YouTubers? Welcome to another edition of Walking Reviews. Today we're going to be taking a look at a production slash mid-tech knife. This one is from Custom Knife Factory, and it is their newest iteration of the Decepticon flipper. This is number 4, and as you can see, a much smaller knife than the previous Decepticons. So let's go ahead and jump into the specs. We have a very interesting, I guess, sheep's foot style blade of M390. And then aside the M390, you see the serial number. I think I mentioned in a previous CKF video that I think they do pretty small runs. I think they do like 200 pieces per run. So yeah, M390, a very high flat grind throughout the whole, aside from this little weird piece back here, full flat ground, and a very high flat grind, leaving it extremely thin behind the edge. And the edge that Custom Knife Factory put on there was excellent. So this thing is crazy sharp, very good for slicing. Although not the longest blade, like I said, it's just under 3 inches. With that really high flat grind and thin edge, it's good for, like, I love using it for slicing tomatoes and stuff like that. You can get like wafer thin slices. So it's got that distressed stonewash with the black coating. Trying to think of the, oh yeah, the video I just did on the CKF Gabco spinner had that same kind of distressed black look with the PVD coating. No logos or anything on the locking side, just the blade steel and serial number on the show side. This way, buddy, come on. It does have, and I think kind of necessarily so, a pretty sizable forward finger groove in the blade, and then jimping along the spine. I've done videos on knives that really didn't necessarily have to have that jimping. I think this one kind of did. I mean, although it obviously could be used like this, if you ever wanted to try and press it into a use with this grip, that's the best. Having your pointer finger in that groove and then your thumb in that belly on the spine of the blade where the jimping is just gives you complete control over this area. So like I said, blade length just under 3 inches, handle length is 3 3/4 inches, so overall 6 3/4 length knife. So very small as far as overall length goes, but not all that small when it comes to like the width of the knife. This is a pretty wide profile right here. You know, probably a couple inches across. I guess I probably should have measured that. Yeah, ill prepared as usual, and I wouldn't have it any other way. But very wide knife. You know when this knife is in your pocket. I like them doing a little bit smaller overall length knives. I think aside from this knife, and I think there was another one, maybe like the Muscle, but they don't tend to venture into the under 3.5 inch blade length very often. And in fact, most of their knives are closer to 3 3/4 inch blades, 4 inch blades. So it's nice to see them at least considering people who prefer a smaller. You can open the knife almost like a front flipper, using that jimping on the spine, which is kind of cool. So the handles is really always kind of what set the Decepticon series or Decepticon knives apart. It's a multi-layered design. Basically, it's a frame lock that has these skeletonized overlays, and the frame itself is skeletonized. so that it looks kind of like biomechanical, or obviously, as the name implies, kind of like a transformer. You know, it looks, there's a lot going on in the handles, that's for sure. But even with all that going on in the handles, it's still pretty damn comfortable to hold and use. It's still contoured. You can see the way that the edges there are sloped away. All of the edges are rounded, chamfered. So the handle is made out of titanium. It's been given the same black wash treatment as the blade, and then a sort of grinder satin stripe down the middle. It is technically a liner lock, and like I said, you can open it with this flipper tab, which is extremely well done. That's about, I mean, it doesn't have the strongest detent. You can see I can open it like that with this tab sticking out of the front. But because of the placement of the flipper tab up higher than the pivot and then facing kind of down end inwards, you get really great flipping action because it's putting all of the momentum into swinging the blade this way, which is obviously going to give you stronger flipping action. So very strong flipper. You can hear the sound there. It is smooth, but this is not like the spinner and the Rattata, although it does look like a smaller version of that Rattata. It's not quite that drop close smooth. I think they could have done it. Obviously, it's a very short blade, so those tend to not be fall closed shut smooth, but it's a wide enough blade. It's not heavy. Obviously, that full flat grind keeps it pretty thin, but I think there is enough weight to it that it probably could have been, if they had dialed in the detent differently, it could have been fall shut smooth. The pocket clip blends really well. It is attached to the inner portion of the handle, and then obviously 3D milled. The hardware is just about flush. I guess that is pretty much flush. You're not going to really feel it, but it extends above that upper portion, so you're getting really good retention in your pocket, but it's not creating undue stress when you pull it out. So fit and finish is excellent. I've never seen or heard of a CKF knife that didn't have pretty much perfect fit and finish. They machine everything in China, but these are hand assembled by people who really know what they're doing in Russia. There's the CKF logo on the center of the handle. I like that. I like the logo being on the handle, and kind of subdued, but still there, still noticeable. This is a knife that's not going to be loved by everybody. That first Decepticon, when it hit the market, there was nothing like it. There was nothing that had this look to it ever in the knife market, maybe outside of like some weird obscure art knife. So when the first Decepticon dropped, it was like a huge deal. Everyone was like, oh my god, I've never seen anything like that, I gotta have it. We're kind of adjusted to the idea now, and I think probably makers have started to kind of adopt that same look, or that same style anyway. So I don't know that this one will be as popular, because size-wise, it's a small knife. Like I said, 6 3/4 overall. Most of the guys who were carrying the Decepticon preferred the longer blades, the more aggressive styling. because it does have an aggressive looking style to it. And yet this one is so small. Yeah, I can't see this one being as popular as the others. It's a great knife. It's really well made. It's really handy too. I mean, I love using this thing as a slicer. It's like a pleasure to use, but I don't see, because at the end of the day, this is like a collector's type knife. There are way more, you know, useful style blades or style knives out there that you would probably go to before. This is something for a collector. Especially, you know, we're talking about price-wise, I think it's right in that $300 range. So yeah, it's a little too pricey to be like a practical user every day. So I can't see, with the already Decepticon 1 and 2 and 3 being out there, and the Rattata, I can't see this one being as popular. It's a little, say you really love the Decepticon, but you've been waiting for that smaller model. Well, here's the smaller model, but it's a little chunker. It's 4.4 ounces for a knife that's under 7 inches. It's wide. It's pretty thick. It's on the thicker side. Love that construction, though, that flow-through construction. Internal stop pin. Obviously, like the other CKF knives, this runs on caged ceramic bearings, so you know, they put in all of the work and all of the bells and whistles as far as functionality goes, but I just don't know that the market is there for this one. If it's something that you do like, maybe I'm completely wrong. I looked, when I got it and I started using it, I was like, oh, this is awesome. It's a little Decepticon. It's a great little flipper, you know, really awesome flipping action. I can even use the front tab to open it that way. There we go. I was initially really stoked up, but as I started carrying it so I could get ready for the review, I realized I'm like, I'm not too thrilled on having it in my pocket because it's basically taking up a ton of pocket real estate, but I still only have just this tiny little knife in there. Yeah, so that if I'm going to take up a huge amount of pocket space, I want something, you know, substantial in there. Not that I'm that, you know, you've seen the knives on this channel. I tend towards the more slender and lightweight designs. So maybe that's it. Maybe I don't care for the proportions, I guess. Maybe that's it. But that's for me, you know. So maybe I'm off base and you guys are looking at this going, oh, I gotta fucking try it. And more power to you, dude. CKF makes a hell of a knife. I love playing with it. You know, I love flipping it and you know, rolling it open and all that kind of stuff. It's not something that I'm thrilled to put in my pocket every day. And for the money, and with the amount of knives that I have to choose from every day, it's a stiff competition for who goes in the pocket. And once my kind of carry period for the review was over, I wasn't putting this back in my pocket much. So take that, you know, for what you will. It's definitely not a bash on this knife because it's incredibly well made. CKF does a fantastic job, but I think just basic design wise, this one maybe wasn't for me. Alright guys, that's going to do it for this one. Take it easy. Stay tuned for more.